Indiana Jones, Indiana It's a podcast about Indiana Jones. Every movie, 1 minute at a time. Indiana Jones, Minute.
Welcome back to the Indiana Jones Minute. This is the podcast where we try to touch the bottom of Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull 1 minute at a time. I'm Tom Taylor.
Go get someone else. I'm Pete Mummert.
You say that every week.
I do say that every week.
I'm Gerald Christopher Marcus Porter.
And I'm John Brueggen.
Welcome back, John.
Thank you.
It's always a pleasure to have you here. We always feel like we're in good hands, both ecologically and Indiana Jonesally.
Yes.
Well, as luck would have it, you'll never guess, but the second minute I did with you guys in Raiders of the Lost Ark was number 72.
Wait, what?
Awesome.
Really?
You said that last week. How could that?
No, that was 71.
Yeah, the first minute was
Math
71.
is a mystery. My goodness. All right. Well, this is minute 72 that we're discussing this week, and it begins with Indy not wanting to grab onto a snake, and it ends with help arriving in the form of Mac and the Russians.
And Jerry, I've got a question for you. Has anybody ever thrown you a lifeline that would have been incredibly helpful, or maybe even changed your life for the better, but you shied away from it because of what the lifeline was?
That's a very leading question.
Oh,
Pete.
yeah. This is one of the, like, how often do you hear, like, do you fear success? One of those
You don't
things.
have to answer. Jerry always asks the most uncomfortable, difficult questions. So I try to toss one into him every once in a while.
I feel like it depends. Like there are people who have approached me who are, dapperly dressed, and they always tell me, that there's an entire career awaiting for me, and it's just a holiday room office meeting.
Yeah.
Away. Yeah. So that may have
Well,
been
have to buy yourself a
lifeline.
suit, Jerry. Oh,
Yeah.
I think I got a thing. I'm supposed to meet a guy. We're going to try the new Mountain Dew. It sounds nice, but thanks.
So yeah, to answer your question, Pete, yes, all the time. And I don't even tell them to call it something else. I just sit and festering in my own dry sand.
There you go. I have to. People, dedicated fans of the show, should please go back and listen to the minutes of this movie where we had our friend Lise Valentine on. It was when Mutt and Indy are driving around on the motorcycle in Connecticut, and we asked her what her favorite part of the movie was, and she said, grab the rope. That's my favorite part. And if you listen, I am fake chuckling at that because I had no idea what she was talking about. I had no memory of that at all, and now I know what she's talking about.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
It does make me think of the Raiders, throw me the idol, I'll throw you the whip a little bit as a way to escape. You have a whip, you have a snake, you have a rope. It's these type of, I guess, serpentine escape, it's sort of methods of escape or tools.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I have to say that as somebody with a mild anxiety disorder that doesn't always make a lot of rational sense, I am 100% with Indy here. Like, I completely understand not grabbing the snake/rope.
Yeah, it's
like, and for me, it might not be a snake, but it
right. If somebody threw whatever your snake is at you, you'd be like,
someone threw responsibility at me, or
right. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you, John, as a herpetologist and general expert and a big fan of the animal kingdom and all that, is there an animal that you fear or just find repulsive? Like, are you just like, no matter what, you can't get near a gelatinous sea slug?
Actually, no, and I don't know too many people that don't have one that immediately comes to mind. But spiders don't bother me, and snakes don't bother me. The cassowary we said last week is, I respect it. It's dangerous, and there's a good reason not to want it to somebody to throw it to you as a rope. But I don't have any of those kind of psychological things that would freeze you in a moment like that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you just hate people.
I was gonna say, like human children. Is that one of them? Like maybe just like touching stuff at the zoo.
I often say what a joke it is because I'm not a real people person, and I worked with animals because of it. And then, you get promoted to the point where you're not touching animals a whole lot, and people are coming to you with their problems, and it's like,
That's so depressing.
People are coming to you, and they are the problem.
Well, yeah, that's
I'm
true.
at the zoo.
That's amazing. You get promoted to your biggest fear. Stuff you hate.
What a Twilight Zone episode.
Kids that are covered in starbursts. They're reaching out for you.
Yeah.
Well, it's also like a video game where you conquer the normal sized bosses, and that's like all the animal fear. But then you have to get to the big boss. So it's just like, no, now I got to deal with the people.
It's a giant kid with a giant melting lollipop thing. Yeah.
Yeah, we're in the middle of summer camp now.
Oh, yeah.
We have 50 kids a day that are there doing all kinds of interesting stuff for summer camp. So, yeah, the place is a bit swarmed with them.
You just hose the place down every afternoon.
Absolutely.
It also sounds like the beginning of a lot of movies that could be made, like Kids Summer Camp at the alligator farm.
That's right.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. I just feel like that kid's going to get his hand bitten off, and it's going to be my fault somehow. Like, I'm going to get sued. Great.
Somebody's going to try and play poker with the cassowary.
Right.
What is interesting is the way they show, well, certainly animals in these movies, and kind of animals that you fear or that the characters fear. Obviously, Indy's biggest fear is a snake, and it's thrown right at his mug, right? Mm-hmm. But I thought about Temple of Doom, where like, all right, so Willie has to reach in, past the like walking stick and all the maggots and gross bugs.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's something that we all feel like, and we can't do it. And we all kind of go, I couldn't do that. But here, like watching the snake, they don't make the snake gross. If you're the audience member, really. Yeah.
Well, that's Willie. I mean, she was running away from the bat and the baboon and the snake and the elephant trunk and everything else. So, she just kind of had all that coming. In fact, I've had an odd week of things like that. Yesterday, I found a bat. Well, some guests found a bat on the ground, so I had to take care of a bat. And then a few hours later, one of our maintenance guys cut through a PVC pipe, and there was probably a 4-foot rattlesnake inside of it, which is just kind of unheard of.
Wow.
So, yeah, I did get to play with some animals this week.
Would a rattlesnake
at the zoo
be aggressive around an alligator or vice versa? Like who would be the aggressor in that scenario?
So I've seen probably, you can find them on YouTube. There's several cases of rattlesnakes being eaten by alligators. So, it's not, most rattlesnakes are eating warm-blooded animals by the time they're big adults. So they're downing rats and rabbits, and they're not too interested in eating a reptile. So even if you said, okay, I got a 5-foot rattlesnake and a 3-foot alligator, it's unlikely that the rattlesnake would pay much attention. But a 12-foot alligator will easily eat a snake that's swimming across the water, no matter what it is.
Wow.
Wow. It's a little bit like crossing the street or something.
Yeah, right. You got to be very careful. Now, down in the Everglades, they got the Burmese python problem down there, and there are some big snakes, and it always makes news with these, amazing photos of a snake that's managed to eat an alligator. But there are plenty of snakes that are getting eaten by the alligators down there.
Huh. All right, so it's kind of like the Hatfields and McCoys,
right?
Yeah.
Let's just stay out of it.
I guess
were you telling us on a previous episode, John, that those pythons were all like some guy had a pet python that he let go or that got out, and then now they're They're
No,
everywhere?
that's kind of the theory, or the commonly distributed PR about the pythons is that irresponsible pet owners did that. But the truth is, it was, which hurricane was that? Hurricane. Well, I just lost it. But there's a hurricane that hit Miami, and so people who had pet snakes were told to evacuate their houses. And they took their dogs with them, and they maybe took their cats with them. But the snake, they thought, it doesn't have to eat for a month. I'll leave it here. Well, when they got back, the house was gone. And so the snakes were kind of automatically distributed. And the ones that were well suited for the habitat survived and are still out there.
Wow.
That was Hurricane Andrew.
Okay.
Right. Well,
And
so
I guess-
what's go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, I was just going to say, I guess they did they had a brief moment where they tried to make this snake scary because Mutt says, hold on tight, it's slimy. And, that's any herpetologist rolling their eyes at that moment. They're in a dry sand pit that's making sucking noises, and you're going to call the dry snake slimy. And it's just, it doesn't work for us.
Well, John, you've established that you would not use a snake as a rope. But if for some reason you had to use, like at gunpoint, someone forced you to use a snake as a rope, would you throw the head first or would you throw the tail first?
Well, so if I'm trying to save a victim who's afraid of snakes, of course I'd hold on to the head where I have control, and I'd throw him a tail. But that's not good movie making.
I love that he keeps throwing that head right at Indy's face.
Right.
Yeah.
Right at the X that Spielberg put there for him.
Right, he nailed it. I have to say, there's something about Indy's whole, like, don't call it that. Call it say throw me or grab the rope or whatever. Like he can't do it unless they say grab the rope. And there's something about that that's really disturbing to me, or like really uncomfortable to watch or something. Like we're used to seeing Indy like not completely in control, or he's up against the wall or whatever, he's defenseless or something, but he's so like psychologically defenseless right now and vulnerable, like he's a kid curled up on his bed and he believes that there's a monster under his bed and he needs a glass of milk and he needs to be read a story. He's like he's an adult dealing with like a kid trauma right now, and you can see that, and there's something really disturbing about it for me. Like, it's almost not funny. Like, I don't feel good watching it.
Oh, it's not funny. You just want to say, man up already.
Yeah, it's a snake, dude. Just grab it. I've survived so many of these things.
I do like, though, that he bargains with his anxiety the exact same way I do. Like, he's like, well, maybe I can touch the bottom. This isn't so bad. I'm sure if I do it the other way, I'll be fine.
Maybe I won't suffer that much as I suffocate. It'll be all right.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I should, commend him for, coping with it and dealing with it and finding a way to, survive and okay, if it's a rope, if they call it a rope, I can deal with it. Like, I suppose that's commendable.
It's interesting. I mean, how he's to get out of this situation, he has to rely on this delusion, other people lying to him.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the only way he can survive, is other people lying to him.
Yeah. He goes through life scoffing at all this magical out of superstitious hocus pocus. And but now he's like relying on that. Okay, just hypnotize me into thinking this is a rope, and I'll live. I'll live to fight
There's no
day.
Sears and Roebuck salesman to make this nice for you.
That's right. Yeah.
I like that joke. I think that's a good line.
Yeah. That is good. Yeah.
I, of course, immediately went to look up, when did Sears and Roebuck start? Because, you're always thinking, oh, maybe that doesn't. But they were, I was pleasantly surprised. They started in 1893, which is the same year that my zoo first opened.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah, maybe they ordered their first alligator from you.
That's probably true.
Well, you could order anything. Like, you could order a house from Sears.
Oh, yeah,
it was
totally.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Is it possible now? I'm just thinking about this. Is it possible that Indy has we see him conquer his snake fear right here? Is he like okay now with snakes?
I was trying to figure out, like, I felt like he had conquered them earlier, but I guess he hadn't. Like, I feel like all of his interactions with snakes at some point, like, would he get past it?
Yeah. Like, I'm trying to in Last Crusade, the only snake is the one that in the sort of prologue part where you find out how he got afraid of snakes. But
Yeah.
there's no other snakes like as when he's an adult in that movie, right?
Correct.
So we've really
Yeah.
only seen him deal with them in Raiders, was like the most recent chronologically, right?
Well, wait a minute. Now, why didn't we discuss the dinner table in Temple of Doom where the guy's eating? I guess he's eating eels.
Yeah, they're inside a big snake, right?
He's eating. Well, no, they have snake surprise, and they open the thing, and all the baby snakes pour out all over the dinner table, and Indy's fine.
Yeah, but that chronologically, if we're going with Tom, that was before Raiders.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was after the beginning part of Last Crusade where he supposedly got his phobia from the circus train or whatever.
Maybe
I guess a dead
latent
snake on a
phobia.
spit isn't so scary.
Yeah, and I think they were eels though, weren't they? Like the ones that slithering around.
Well, it was
Slumbert tosses one around.
They were truly eels. I don't know if they were trying to pass them off as baby snakes or not, but either way, more delicious than scary again.
I guess, you know what, it was called Snake Surprise. I guess the surprise there was that it was eels.
Right.
Oh, I was expecting snakes.
Yeah, it was an eel stuffed snake. like a turducken.
Yeah.
Well, that would make more sense because the Burmese python would lay eggs anyway.
That's a surprise, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, then I like Indy says, "Get rid of that thing, will you, son?" And I like the son there, but I really dislike like Mutt's way of thanking the snake for saving both of his parents is to just chuck it. Like that's mean.
Yes, agreed.
And it does bounce. Yeah, it flips like a big rubber snake, doesn't it? But that son is weird. The son made me think, wait, has Indy been calling him son just casually the whole movie? And this is sort of a play on that now that he knows that he's his son. But then I looked and he never once calls him son.
No, I think he's trying it out.
I guess so. Is that what he's like? Just like son? Like,
no, I absolutely think that. I think it's the first time he's calling him son and just wants to see how it rolls off of his tongue and whether or not Mutt's going to react to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he's trying to sweet talk him into getting rid of the snake. So he's like, I'm going to accept you if you
possible.
Yeah.
Honey.
Well, it is interesting. We see Marion and Mutt really sort of take charge where, they just kind of, demand, grab the rope. And you're like, as you said, Tommy, Indy's super vulnerable. And you see Mutt kind of, again, being in charge, taking command, sort of fill in the shoes of maybe where Indy would have in Raiders, that type of thing, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Calls him a crazy old man.
It's funny how they've reversed everything because neither Karen Allen or Harrison Ford are afraid of snakes. They didn't mind working around them. And then you have Shia, who was very afraid of the snake to begin with. And so, you got him playing all bold and tossing the snake and yelling at his father. So it's interesting how people end up having to work with their fears in these movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, he does a good job. You wouldn't know that he was freaking out about
I'll say, like, Tommy, I know you don't really like the tone of the film here, and I understand why completely, but I think the acting is good.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, if you're going to go with this sort of little rat, like we're interrupting the movie to have a little bit of a Little Rascals themed dry sand pit snake event, then the acting is good and they all pull it off really well. Mutt's good. Indy is really scared and even he's got some great yelling lines and it's well done.
Yeah, I agree. I think. Do I? I want to hear myself say that later. I'm like, wait, I don't agree with that.
But yeah, I mean, you know what? It's classic Last Crusade silly stuff. That's what it is. We find out Indiana Jones is a son, and it's just kind of like we talk about this all throughout the whole series.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just how they treat it, and you're like, oh, okay, they went kind of down the stamp. This is like a stamp joke kind of stuff, and that sort of thing. Yeah.
Which I love, right?
Tom hates those, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, You know, it's like the harmless fun.
Maybe I like the harmful fun. I don't
Yeah, I know. Raiders is harmful fun.
know. It is.
That Raiders
Everybody's
is
black
harmful
and blue.
fun. Yeah, you
Yeah.
after you watch that movie, you go, man, I gotta start growing like some 5 o'clock shadow.
Yeah.
Like I can't keep up with this. Like I gotta get to work. I gotta start studying harder. I gotta stop shaving. You know, you gotta get to work. And
Yeah.
this is harmless fun.
Yeah.
Well, see, you guys started a Marion watch a while ago. Where do you stand
That's
with
true.
Marion now?
That's a really good question. I feel like it is weird. Like, if I'm just watching her in this movie so far, I like her and I'm having fun, and I'm so excited to see her. But then yeah, as soon as you get an image in your head of her in Raiders, you're like, oh wait a minute, that's not exactly the Marion that I. But it is. I mean, I don't know. It's tough. It's tough. I wish I would like to see her and Indy in a slightly different situation. You know, like in a movie that where I can sort of feel like, oh, these are those two characters from that movie and they're reuniting, and this is actually what it would be like. Like I feel like they're sort of avoiding that in favor of some easy sitcom.
It's kind of a
tropes.
sitcom. Yeah, it's a sitcom reuniting
Yeah.
rather than
Yeah, it really
an actual
is.
reuniting.
John, look, you've been with us through this entire podcast, all of it. Are we too hard on this series? And by we, I mean Tommy and me.
Yeah, Pete's having a great time.
Pete loves everything, but he speaks with butterflies.
Too hard on the whole movie series or this movie?
Are we too well? Okay, how about this? Are we too slavishly in love with Raiders and anything that strays from that? Are we too? There's not enough wiggle room for us if it's either Raiders or the Highway.
Well, you know, as you sometimes say, you're sitting here discussing this and you mention Raiders and you think, oh, I could be watching Raiders, which turns out makes a great T-shirt.
It does.
And yeah, of course, in my mind, Raiders is the best movie ever made, and I don't care what's made after that; it's not going to compare, and in any genre. So I'm happy to watch that over and over again. But as far as the fan service goes, bringing Marion back and having her put her hands on her hip and say a similar line that she said from Raiders was all good with me. Just seeing her smile on the screen and she can't do anything wrong in my mind. She, you know, Karen Allen, just listening to Karen Allen is pleasing. She just recently did a whole bunch of little 4-minute interviews with different people, like by Skype or something, that are on YouTube. We're celebrating the 40th anniversary. So people are asking her all these questions, and she's got the big grin on her face, and she's just happy to talk about those times. And you know, she's a pleasant woman to be around.
And you know that you hung out with her at your zoo a couple of years ago.
Oh yeah, what a great experience! She was there for a little film festival in our town, and she happened to be coming in a day early from the film festival, and I reached out to some people and said, you know, if there's any way that she would want to come visit our place, I'd be happy to show her around. And I didn't hear anything, and I thought, oh, that's kind of done. And then I got a call from on the radio. The gift shop said, you know, hey, there's somebody here to see you. And, you know, I told my wife that it was a possibility, but I didn't know. And so I call her. I'm like, I think it's happening, you know.
Wow.
She comes over, and I had already introduced myself, and she was with another woman that she does some film work with. And then my wife got in there, and she's, you know, she's just down to earth. She stuck out her hand and said, hi, I'm Karen Allen, as though we didn't already know that, right?
Wow.
And so she loves animals, and she loved the park, and she was excited about everything. We brought her down in we have a big lagoon with a bunch of giant American alligators, and I said, you want to get in there and do a photo? And, you know, I've done that with many people, and many who absolutely say, nope, I will never do it. And some people I have to talk into. Some people I have to go in there first to show them that the alligators don't rush you and eat you. But she was like, yeah, I'll do that. And so she sat down and made photos with my wife and I behind a 12-foot American alligator and asked some intelligent questions. And, it just very pleasant through the whole thing. So I would stand in line to have a signing with her at one of these Comic-Cons, but instead I got to spend 3 hours showing her around my zoo. It was just wonderful.
Yeah,
and so I told her I built the Ark of the Covenant and for our Egyptian themed area. So she went and made photos with me in front of that. And I thought I was playing it pretty cool. I was trying to be an adult and act like I knew what I was talking about. And she got out in the swamp and there's 200 alligators out there, and she asked if she could feed them. And so we got her some pelleted diet, and every time an alligator ate some food she threw out, she giggled. She like a child, like she was just so happy about it. And I finally I kind of rolled my eyes and I said, "Look, I just gotta level with you. I'm like way more of a fan than I'm letting on, and I just is it okay if I have a couple things for you to sign?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, that's cool." And so we will continue walking, and I said, "Do you want to feed our 15-foot crocodile?" And she said, "Yeah." Yeah, okay, whatever. And so we bring a couple, I think they were chickens. We brought some chickens up, and we tie them to a string. And so she's up on this upper level, and this croc jumps, every bit of 12 feet of his 15 feet out of the water and eats these chickens. And I've watched that video over and over and over again. She giggles, and she's so excited about it. And then she went to the film festival and kept telling the story about how she got to feed Maximo and how she'd say, "Oh, actually, it wasn't chicken, it was rats," because I remember her now saying very clearly, they tied a white rat to this string, and I got to hold it out there, and Maximo came up and jumped and ate the rat right in front of me. It's just very detailed about it. So it was just a really great experience. She signed a bunch of stuff. My wife mentioned it was my birthday. Just coincidentally, it was, and so she signed "Happy Birthday" on some of the stuff that she did for me, and we just chatted about stuff. And afterwards, we were at the film festival a couple days later, and she said, "That Maximo experience was so much fun. I'm going to use it as my 3 truth and a lie story." And I've not heard that as a game, but it, it's kind of self-explanatory, I guess.
Yeah.
She'll pitch it out there and tell everybody that she fed a crocodile, and she said they'll never believe it. But the one thing she told me that I've never read or heard anywhere else was about in the Well of Souls when that snake drops on her neck. I asked her about it. It's a ball python. It looks like kind of an uncomfortable land, and there's a lot of mixed shots there. The shot when Indy's climbing up the statue, and he's got the torch in his mouth, and he gets there, and there's a snake there. They use a rattlesnake sound. That's a Burmese python, but it's supposed to be the snake that he tosses down on her. And then it's a ball python that lands on her neck, and she said. Very few people know this, but that was a dead snake they dropped on me. She said it had died a few days earlier. And they were supposed to use it for the shot, but it got bit by the cobra or something, and it died.
Oh my God.
So they froze it, and they said, "It won't make any difference now." And so they just dropped this snake on her for the film, which is just a wonderful story. And she just, she's fine with all of it. She said, "Yeah, they dropped a dead snake on me."
Wow.
Movie magic.
It was great.
That's all. You must have been just like I'm proud of you for reining it in as long as you did about the fandom.
She sat at my desk and probably signed a dozen things for me. I was like, well, how about one of these? I have a book here. Sign this book, and she just did it all. And then she'd see us at the film festival and wave at us to come over. And I got to introduce the Raiders that there was a showing of Raiders at the film festival. So I got to introduce that, and she came up and talked right behind it. And and again gushed about being able to feed Maximo. So it was a wonderful experience. Cool. So I know they say don't meet your heroes, but both Jock Lindsay, Fred Sorensen and she were just wonderful to be with. Hi guys, this is John Brueggen again. I realized that after we talked in our podcast that I left out one of my Karen Allen stories. And that's mostly because I don't tell the story very frequently because I don't have a photo to prove it. During the film festival, we had a couple nights where we were invited to dinner, or we had a couple introductions to different films where she was. And it was nice. It was a good experience. And then the last night, we knew it was going to be the last time we'd see her. So my wife gave her a hug, and they said their goodbyes, and I went over and hugged her, and she kissed me on the cheek. And I was kind of stunned, I guess. I said goodbye, we walked out, got in the Jeep, and I started the vehicle and kind of sat there a second, and my wife said, "Karen Allen just kissed you." And I said, "Yeah, I know." And we kind of drove off in almost silence, and it took a while for us to even talk about it again, but my wife was a good sport about it. She wasn't upset or anything, and I kind of probably had a blush on my face for the next hour. Luckily it was nighttime, but it was a great experience, and so I just wanted to share with you guys. Unfortunately, no photographic evidence, but it was fun nonetheless.
Now I want a zoo farm.
I know. I want to.
There you go.
Do we even talk about the Russians coming back and stuff?
I got 2 questions about that.
Okay.
Number 1, why is Mac leading them? And number 2, how long did they have to choreograph so that they form a perfect circle? They all show up at exactly the same time at the opposite
Spielberg
sides
formation, go.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all kind of, it's just like, oh, this will look really good when we film it.
Mm-hmm.
It did. It looked cool.
That's valid.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're allowed to do that.
It strikes me, like this has struck me a few times as we've been talking to you tonight, John, is how much different a movie is when you watch it the way we do it. And like when I saw this in the movie theater, I thought Karen Allen was great. And when we watch it 1 minute at a time, I don't really have any big problems with her, but it's not the same. Like you start to notice smaller things like, oh, that's not quite the same as the character as I remember from this or that. But when you're just watching something as a movie, you don't see all of that stuff.
Sure.
Yeah, I really noticed that with Denham Elliott and Last Crusade. We isolated it and looked at it in minutia, and he just ended up feeling like a clown by the end of it. And then like I said the other day, we watched it whole all the way through, and he's got such a minor role, and some of it is wonderful. Some of that stuff in the tank with his best friend is all fun stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a good movie.
I noticed when they pull Indy out using the rat snake, non-rat snake, he's getting pulled, and he looks exactly like he did in Raiders being dragged behind the truck.
That's true.
Well, there's like a quick second there where you're like, oh my gosh, he's prone, I guess.
But he's coincidentally wearing the exact same outfit.
Yeah, weird. What are the odds? Decades apart. Well, speaking of decades apart and everything, and our love for all these indie movies, John, what are your thoughts, fears, hopes for Indy 5? It's about a year away as we record this.
Yeah, I think there's good stuff coming. Some there's been these little pictures of sets and stuff going on around the internet, and people have already decided that they don't like it for whatever reason because the internet sucks sometimes. And and Mangold himself tweeted out to somebody and just said, it's possible that I'm going to make a good movie here. How about you just let me do it and see what happens later. And I just love him for that. I think I think when these guys are fans and they take over a film like this, just like all those guys that are working on Mandalorian, they have such a love for it, and the backstories, and they're pulling out stuff that only fans would remember to bring into these new shows. I think he's going to do that kind of stuff, and I think it's going to be cool. I think there's technology that's obviously they're using some cool technology that's going to have either flashbacks or whatever in it, but they can do almost anything right now with the technology they have. I think Harrison Ford could die halfway through this and they could finish the movie. You know, it would be fine. And so I think they waited this long because they were all wanting a good story. And Harrison said he wouldn't do this one unless it was a good story, and he's doing it.
All right.
Yeah, I like that.
Good.
That's hopeful.
Yeah.
I think I feel the same way. I think it's in good hands. I'm excited about all the casting and everything that we've heard, and cautiously optimistic.
That's it.
Well, speaking of cautiously optimistic, coming in over the wire. This just in from Professor Christy Porter. Marion gives a haiku. His name is Henry. He's your son, Henry Jones III.
Wait a minute.
Remember
That's
that the
awesome.
last line of a haiku is the wistful one.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Henry Jones.
I don't know if it's a haiku. I think
I don't know if
I
it is
think
actually,
no,
but I like it.
think
No, no,
yeah, I
don't-
think
everyone at
no,
home,
no,
don't
no.
count. Don't count.
Don't
Don't count the
count.
beats.
I think
Yeah.
it's just it's the mythical dry sand pit.
Right. It's the sound of one haiku.
Matt
haiku
Carson's
clapping.
just his eyes are twitching right now.
Yeah. He's upsetting all the apple carts. Well, John, again, thank you so much for being here.
Of course.
You're our beacon in the night. Are we on course? Are we understanding Indy correctly?
Well, I have some plans to fly to the filming locations and just release snakes on site, so you guys have to use me in the next movie.
Oh, awesome! That's how you do it.
That'd be good.
Excellent. Yeah, I should say I hope that Indy's not over his fear of snakes after this scene, because we need to have him deal with them in the next one. All right.
Maybe
Exactly.
petrified of the cassowary, I'm sure, after he listens to our show.
Well, tell everyone again where they can find you in St. Augustine.
So it's the St. Augustine Alligator Farm Zoological Park, and you can just go to alligatorfarm.com.
Is it ever St. Augustine?
The person
Sure.
is
Every
Saint
time I've
Augustine.
ever heard you say it, it's St. Augustine. I'm sure the Catholic Church probably says St. Augustine.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, no matter how you pronounce towns and saints' names and things, we hope you have a beautiful week. And while you're hanging out doing your thing, and if you want to support the show, and if you want to do it in a way that costs you nothing but gives you the satisfaction of a job well done, why don't you go wherever you're listening to the show and rate, review, and subscribe, and let the world know that we are a show worth listening to and that we have fans around the world, because we do, and we are. And when you're done with that, please come back next week while we talk about minute 73 of Crystal Skull here on the Indiana Jones Minute.
Son.